also to support the creator, I gotta buy this shit. Oh, dude. One thing that I really want FGO to animate is this show. Is this manga right here. This manga needs to get animated. Hands down. Like, I will die on this hill that this FGO food report of the heroic spirits needs to get animated. The reason why I say that is because if you read this, it is about, it's essentially equivalent to Emiya's cooking, right? It's essentially Emiya's cooking, but it's FGO. And FGO servants talk about their own food and in their own timeline and interacting, right? So you get like super unique interactions, like Knights of the Round Table interacting with Sherlock Holmes, interacting with every England character, right? Like Anderson, not Anderson, Shakespeare, right? Where Shakespeare teaches Lartoria, right, the Lancer, how to drink, I think it was like milk tea, I think it was milk tea, yeah. How to drink milk tea in Shakespeare's timeline, right? And you also get a, here, I don't know if they got the fucking episode. They kind of show you how, curry works. It'd be awesome, right? It'll be awesome for Greek for Circes. Yeah, and that'll be awesome too, right? There's the food for Spartacus, food of Sparta, aka Leonidas. Chapter 5 is France cookies. France cookies and France prince and princesses. And then yeah, it's really fucking good, right? Like I'll quickly show you guys, right? Kind of like a quick rundown. So it essentially talks about records and food. Da Vinci munches on little green peppers. And then talk about, you know, eating big ass boar. There's Lartoria. Knights of the Round Table. Eating demonic meat is normal. This is even Holmes can cook. And then Lartoria is like, who the hell is Holmes? Detective. And then the Lartoria kind of bickers around Britain later onwards, right? 19th century Britain. And then talks about, like, back in my day. Yeah, back in my day, the fanciest shit that we could have had was roast pork. And so Holmes is cooking, right? Holmes is cooking in order to make sure Lartoria feels at home. So he's going to give her a Holmes era food. And so protagonist starts thinking, when it comes to England cooking, it's about fish and chips, right? Like scones, sandwiches, afternoon teas, etc. And then Holmes goes, you're right. However, this, in the 19th century, the most beloved food that we had is curry. And then people are like, it says here, why curry? And then Holmes goes, isn't it curry when you talk about England? Right? And this is 100% easy gateway to FGO. 100%. Because it's just heroic spirits interacting with other heroic spirits. You get to eat, like, you get to see really delicious, high-detailed food. And they talk about the history of the food while it is in their era, right? And then protagonist, like, when it talks about curry, it's India, right? And it's like, you're right. Curry originally came from India, but in England, a lot of people eaten it. Right? Even in the cookbook, it's written like this, right? Modern Domestic Cookery, 1851. Curry, yada, yada, yada. Talks about it. Lartoria eats one, gets shocked. Everybody and their mom panics. It's like, you poisoned her. She's just like, this shit's lit. And then it's very spicy. Fokun says that shit's smelly, right? Fokun says this stinky, hides nose. Because it is strong on spice. And then kind of Holmes talk about like reason why England is known for the curry around the 19th century. The root was because because there was a route to India, and you know, curries and spices were being taken from India to England. And then they specifically talk about how it's made back in the day, how the sea route's been taken, and then they're specifically talking about why is an Indian curry, its roots and its circumstances reached all the way to England, right? And then Holmes is like, that's a good question, Miss Caroline, and kind of talks about the trade route, right? Because following the land all the way to Karutatara, Madurasu, Hobato, and Goa, and then just kind of following the land sail all the way to England. Because remember, back in the day, they didn't go England to India, right? Because there's America, and that like, you know, back in the day, the map was fucking unknown for America, and that's why Columbus, you know who fucking went to the world above. And then, yeah, specifically from the 20th century, curry didn't pop off. And then he says, this is where we come into play. You see Christian Andersen and Shakespeare. It says, なかなかいい刺激だ。目が覚める。止まったアイデアが溢れそうですな。And it says, yeah, we've only stayed up for 5 nights straight. They specifically talk about, during my days, I had deer meat pies. It says, by the way, it's 17th century meat pie. Don't think of it like modern. It's fucking... it's salted galore. It says, if you eat that shit every day, you'll get bored in a week. It's just impossible. You'll get bored in 3 days. Like, you know, like, they kind of had this awesome things. It says, yeah, then Lartoria specifically says, my intuition predicts that these two are also born from Britain. And it's making me worry. And then they talk about blah, 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 da-da-da-da-da. And then, even Holmes is like, you're in front of our king, you two. Yeah, like, change your attitude. And says, oh, I sincerely apologize. It was a oriental shock that I've reminded myself in the nostalgic past. So in order to show you my respect and an apology, I will give out my era of tea style, if I would, as a compensation. It says, when it comes to England, it's about teas, right? It says, however, the England famous teas were way after my era. Specifically how they done things compared to I. So he goes, here it is. Here is the quote-unquote, back in the day, noble-like milk. Right? Here's the milk. And Lartoria goes, oh, I see. So essentially, this is the milk tea. Essentially, it's a tea added with milk. And then he said, Lartoria goes, oh, I see. Tea. It says, unfortunately, when it comes to tea, we had to get it from an import, right? We had to get it from an import. It was super expensive, you see. And then Lartoria kind of hesitates, saying that this product is also from the sea beyond, right? Because remember, Britain back in the day, there were very close borders because of Vikings and scary shit outside world, right? Lartoria and them had the idea of outside world scary invaders coming in. But compared to Shakespeare's and others, imports and outside world is not as scary as back then. So she kind of hesitates whenever she hears food from an exported food. So it says, "My king, what's wrong?" Then Lartoria realizes something when she tries to drink it. And then it says, there's a lot of grossness inside the teacup. Everybody and their mom tries to kill Shakespeare. And Lartoria says, stay, right? Stay. And then Shakespeare's like, no, it's not something foreign or poison. It's merely tea leaves for the tea. And then it says, please do understand, in our era, this is how you drink your tea. Using these in order to make sure that the tea leaves do not enter, we use the saucer and change it from the cup to the saucer and drink it like that. By exchanging the drink to the saucer, you don't have to worry about the tea leaves, and it prevents you from getting a sudden burn to the tongue. It is 2 birds, 1 stone. I see. And then Lartoria drinks it. It says it has a very good fragrance. And then Mash asks, why do you do something like that in the first place? And then it says, yeah, shouldn't you use a cuse or a teapot to, filter things out? And then Holmes interjects and says, understand that in England, using tea to teapot style stabilized and solidified around 1800. It says, when tea started to become famous around 1700 Europe, they didn't have the technology to create teapots. Every single item was exported from the Eastern things. It says, yeah, teapots were so rare to come by that it was so expensive that not even nobles were able to afford. It was essentially a flower that was expensive, too expensive. So back in the day, they would use the cup as the filter, and they use the saucer, aka the plate below, as cups. And then Holmes flexes my cup and my saucer, right? It says, in modern days, tea comes with cup and a saucer. That is the reason to keep the nostalgia. And then Lartoria reminiscences says, I see. The later Britain, the people of Britain, were able to have these fine dines and culture of food from the seas of beyond. And then she specifically talks about, during my time, seas of beyond with nothing more than enemies come in. It was something to be hated. It was an absolute detriment. It was something that to be tolerated or underestimated. It says, I cannot believe the later generations, they would use it to travel around different worlds and culturally exchange. It says, no matter what the generation may be, it was something that I will never probably able to perform. Because even though the land was so hard to live in the land of Britain, the sheer fact that the people were able to bring out something so rich and flavorful of like this is a wonderful thing. I feel proud for this to happen. And then she specifically says, thank you for your hospitality, Holmes. And then it says, it is my pleasure, King Arthur. And then Mordred comes in and says, is the food ready? I'm not really expecting much. What the hell are we eating today? And then Lartoria leaves. And then Mordred kind of bypasses each other. And Mordred is dumbfounded. It says, today's curry, Mordred. And it says, Master, that's my father, right? King Arthur himself. When did you summon him? He says, why? I summoned him today. Yeah, what's wrong? He says, I've never thought the feeling in the atmosphere of that person was completely different being. More like a wafty, right? Fluffy. It says, I've never seen so laid back, like my father so laid back in that form. And then you can see her ahoge kind of floating, right? In happiness, right? It says, yep, you probably see more of this later in the future. And that concludes chapter 1. This is just chapter 1, bro. Okay? Like, you see how fucking awesome this shit was? And I TLDR'd most of this. This needs to get animated. Okay? 100%. It'll be the most delicious looking lore filled anime, hands down, okay? Hands down. And that was chapter 1. We have all the way after chapter 7. And chapter 7, it's fucking Drake, Blackbeard, and how to live like a pirate. And the chapter is fucking called See the Land and the Water and, right? And it's literally about vacationing on an island and talking about the pirate life. Both the elegant side and the not elegant side. Told not only by Blackbeard, but also by Marion Bonnie, and fucking Captain Drake on a wooden boat. It's lit as fuck. Right? And they talk about the sea life, where they are, how they do, specifically puts extra clothes that Blackbeard had. By the way, Blackbeard has his fucking Final Ascension costume on, right? And then gives the clothing to Master to not get sunburned. And specifically talks about how to fillet a fish, how to dry a fish, how to, blood bucket, and don't want to do yada yada yada. And then Master makes this mistake of just like, I bet you guys have like month worth of food in your ship and go on a set sail. Fun time, aren't you? And then Bond, I think that's Bonnie, right? I think it's Bond. Bond specifically says, you think we go constantly on a big expedition? And Master says, no. And then Drake and the others specifically says, in our time, we didn't go out and explore. We actually just stayed on shore. And then specifically talks about they didn't pack a lot of things in their ship. And they specifically talks about the reason why they don't go out the land is because of drinkable water, right? Simultaneously says store water can get rotten super easily, so we can't hoard it all the way. It says, unlike alcohol and food, it's a resource that we have to constantly replenish. And then they specifically talk about certain things and where things get stored, yada, yada, yada. And then, Mary asks, what do you think of a pirate life and how pirate eats, right? And then Master kinds of, since he's a peaceful mind, he's just like, on the seaside, eating food, eating fish, drinking alcohol, party it up left and right. It says, Master, as expected, those who are not struggling, you know how to think. And then Drake and Blackbeard kind of goes, yeah, I suppose that is the dream, isn't it? And then Drake slowly but surely kind of tells the truth, right? It says a lot of cooking was done offshore, right? Not on the boat. And then Protag's like, why not on the ship and on the board? It says during that time, the ship cook was allowed to get off 3 times in a day to cook specifically. After all, whenever it comes to using fire, you have to do it on land. It says you do understand the risk of using fire on a ship, right? And then protagonist goes, yeah, afraid of fire because it's made out of wood. After all, ship gets burned down, it would be quite crazy. And then specifically talks about the Viking porridge, using like flour and water and butter to kind of get like porridge all kind of made up in an instant and whatnot. And it says, yeah, compared to Master's image, the pirate's life is a little different, as you can see. And then they kind of talk about like a lot of cheese, butter, dried food, something that can be preserved long. It says those can't last forever, and from then things get rough. Then Mary stops Master, says it's something you don't need to know. And then everybody ate the same food. Protax asks, doesn't the captain get a fancier food? And then she specifically says, no, everybody eats equally. After all, if it's not equal, they'll just shoot him on the spot. So yeah, what a pirate life, huh? It says, when things get rough, we just gotta steal it from the other ship. They all says it. It says, other than stealing it from other ships, do you have any other way? Then Blackbeard tells his story, right? It says, after that, it's alcohol or rum, right? You just drink and try to enjoy and try to erase it away. It says you just drink alcohol even to replenish water, to just make it go away. If there's no food, you drink your alcohol away. If there's no water, you drink your alcohol away. It says everybody would start to get hungry, and those would be raggedy and rioting. Everybody enjoys it in their dream. And then Blackbeard goes, "Hey, Master, you want to know the best way to fix a food shortage problem on the sea?" It says, "What is it, Blackbeard?" Bang. And fucking puts his finger on his forehead. And it says, bang. It says, all you gotta do is just lessen the load. Less mouth to feed. Just kidding. He says, hey, Blackbeard, can you stop messing around, please? And then Drake is like, nope, he'll definitely do it. He'll definitely shoot his crewmates without hesitation. And then Blackbeard makes it a very, Blackbeard makes a very hard face, specifically says, Mary made sure to not talk about that because she thought of Master. But understand that pirate's life is not as elegant as it sounds. A long voyage with seasick and alcohol sick, people thrown up left and right on the starburst and everywhere. It says your dried meat is already rotten to the core. Biscuits has been already stolen by the rats that has snuck its way in. It's shit all over the place. Shit all over the place, ruining the atmosphere, morale, and the smell. It says you think it's a happy-go-lucky, but it's not. It's a life of miserable. It was rough to some. But everybody still wanted to become a pirate, you see. Because in the sea, everybody has a dream that wants to make it come true. It's filled with mysteries and all, after all. It says probably somebody that's popular or a normie would not understand. those who would travel around the seaside of the internet, my friends and comrade, would also come up with the same nonchalant. I really want to translate this. So essentially, Blackbeard is saying that there's infinity dream on the sea, right? And then he's comparing the sea to the internet sea, right? And then that's why he's saying that the fellow comrades of the sea of the internet would understand this dream of ours that's been tucked into a vast shore. It says you would dream about something that would never be allowed on the land, and you would take that what you want. That's what the sea was all about, you see. But there was one thing that's corny, but it's kind of cool though, right? He's making it the double entendre of web, right? The vast wide world web and the vast wide world sea. It is corny, but it's really nice for a pirate to kind of talk about it like that. After all, he is a modernized Blackbeard. Blackbeard knows he is us after all. And then he specifically says one thing. He says, "Hey, even the sea had one thing that there's one thing that even the sea could not provide." And says, "What's that?" Right? Something that exists, something that doesn't exist while you're on the sea. Is that it's that one fresh water. One cup of fresh water that you get to drink right after you land on shore. That mere moment feels ecstasy of an equivalent of highest alcohol that you've stolen through the sea, and even more of that. It makes you feel alive right when you step on land. And because of that, you just get addicted to go back to the sea to feel that once more. So it's kind of just Blackbeard, kind of just dreaming it up a bit, right? But that's kind of his. I do wish the translation would be cooler than how I'm explaining it. I'm not doing you justice, right? It's essentially Blackbeard is saying that it's that one cup of water returning from the seashore, right? After all the adventure, the first cup of water is the most delicious thing that no high quality alcohol that you stole can compare to. And because of that, he gets addicted to that. He wants to go back to sea to experience that luxury, that reward all over again, right? And then they kind of talk about the pirate's life, and then while they finish talking about the pirate's life, they get back on shore, and everybody and their mom, comes back happy-go-lucky. Tamamocat surprise. No problem being chilling on the most flexible tree on the planet Earth. And Tamamocat's like, "You disappeared all of a sudden." Mash was quite worried. I said, "Sorry, had the transponder off. I'm glad that you were able to find me." It's like, "It's not me that found you, Wolf. Look." And then there's blood. Eric the Blood Axe. And then she specifically says, "I thought he gotten a deer, but he looks at the sea and says smells blood. It seems that it was Master. You guys were, it seems that Master, you guys were the problem after all, Wolf." Because, fish is water and blood gut. And Eric figured it out right off the bat. And then Eric sees the dried fish and kind of quickly remembers the Viking life, which is so cool, right? Because he doesn't say a single fucking word, right? Master kind of gets a telepathy image of Eric the Blood Axe's life a little bit, where he's just on his fucking voyage, dry food, making the Viking porridge, and then he's like, "Oh, I just suddenly saw a memory, right? A glimpse of a memory of sort." And then turns around and says, "Oh." And then he still has the deer that captured, right? So after he killed the deer, he looked at the sea, noticed the masters and them were there. And says, "Oh, I see. Then I must go ahead, Masta," right? I says, Don't be late." Speaking in tongues. Neko ni hone, inu ni sakana da. Cat gets bones, dog gets fish, don't be late. AKA, flip that around. Cat gets fish, dog gets bones, don't be late. It's time for us to prepare shop. It says, thanks everyone. Because of you guys, we'll be able to, we'd be able to come back safely. And then after all that, Mash, cries. There's a swimsuit Helena and Summer Nobu, which is pretty awesome. Mash cries and be happy, huggy huggy, barbecue time. Eric eating fucking meat, no problem. Cursed Arma-san being the best sous chef that Emiya and Tamamo Cat and Boudica ever need. It's really finely detailed. And then you get to see little Hassan, which is so cute. And then it says, yeah. And then the cool thing is, right, Protag remembers what Blackbeard says. He says, thanks for the clothing. I'll give it back to you. And then he's like, man, you got quite the sunburn. I told you to wear it on top of your head tightly. He says, you're red all over. He says, ha ha ha, it stings just a bit. But here you go. And then Blackbeard's like, oh, you remembered. Blackbeard's a bit embarrassed. Perhaps you're trying to unlock the Blackbeard route? He's like, nah, I don't think so, but... and then Blackbeard's like, come on, you're supposed to look out for me and drink a beer, right? He says, unfortunately, I'm underage, so I can't bring it along. But this will do. And then he goes, well, with that, good job on our voyage, I suppose. Thanks for the water. Because they both are drinking water, because remember what Blackbeard said, right? Drinking water is the best thing ever. First thing you land on shore. And so they both drink water. It's like, man, I wish I could drink beer or rum. Hey, Blackbeard, what? But then again, every time I go back on land, feeling like you're still alive and well and quenched after a really nice cup of water. Doing this every time feels like you are alive once more. Then again, I'm a servant, not sure about what alive means anymore, right? And then Drake comes in, it's like, what y'all doing? Having fun, boys out only? Why don't we have a festivity? If we're going to do it, you better invite us in. It says, I didn't call for you, Baba. Yeah, it says, yeah, Baba, right? Old hag, I didn't invite you to this. And then I like how everybody and their mom is like, well, Blackbeard, we technically didn't invite you, but I suppose Blackbeard did something. It says, and nobody's invited me. What? I'm an extra. Come on. And then Drake is laughing, right? And says, oh, well. Here. I stole some beer, so. And then it says, Master gets orange juice, right? And Blackbeard's like, right, clicks his tongue, but still does accept the beer. Drake's all laughing. Wholesome, wholesome. It says, all right. To finish off the today, let's finish off the today and able to land shore safely. Cheers. Right? Everybody has beer except Master, who has orange juice. The end. It's so fucking good, dude. Like, this not getting animated is a crime. Let's say this was real, and wouldn't the brain eventually go nuts if it saw all the memories of so many servants? Well, this is just a glimpse, right? On top of that, it's a berserker, and this is a what-if moment, right, Shadow? So it's just for the sake of wholesomeness. It's so wholesomeness, right? Like, I swear, FGO Heroic Spirit food record is underrated, even to this day. This needs to get animated, 100%. And like I said, I will die on this hill. And the greatest part about it is the author started to fucking write chapters again. God bless. By the way, this was updated 2 days ago. The last update we had of that person was 2023, March 1st. Okay? So, We're back. After a year and 5 months, we are back at it again. God bless. So, I need you guys to push this. I need you guys to support this. Because if we can get this person cooking, we can actually get the anime cooking. You feel me? It's so good. It is, like I said, it is one of the most underrated FGO manga to date. Because remember, I only showed you 2 chapters. Yeah, now you're hungry. You still haven't seen how Sparta food works, how France Prince and Princesses' snack works. There's an entire chapter of this shit that's more than ever before. We've got Egyptian food, Oriental food, Victorian, Victoria, England curry, right? And ancient Mesopotamia foods. Like, it's in there in that chapter. It's so good. Like, you see Pharaoh and Iskandar interactions and shit. It's lit. Thanks, I'm hungry now. He'll probably have to make 10 or more chapters to make it a season. Oh, I agree. He needs to make 3 more chapters. And I sincerely hope he takes his sweet fucking time and make it happen. Because the sea, the Okeanos crew, it's lit. It's fucking lit. I sincerely hope each chapter takes an entire 30 minutes. I really do. Each chapter needs to be 30 minutes. At least. At least. 100%.